spring is right around the corner. And I know that not because I leave the house and can, you know, actually like experience the seasons changing, but because my YouTube recommended page has been filled with spring fragrance top picks videos. I decided that it was finally time to hop on the bandwagon, and today we're going to be looking at my top spring fragrances. Before we start, I want to give a big thank you to all my new subscribers. I'm so excited to have you here, and if you are new here and you like all things fragrance related, definitely make sure to smash that subscribe button. And if you're coming back, I'm really happy to have you here as well. I literally have work in like 15 minutes, so I can't ramble like I always do. So let's try to get through this, you know, in a timely manner. So first of all, spring is like probably my least favorite season. One of the main reasons is because I get really bad seasonal allergies, but also like, I don't know, spring is just like too cold for you to do summer stuff and then too warm for you to do winter stuff. So it's like weird like middle ground that I just really don't like. And also I don't really have a good collection of spring fragrances. I feel like when I think spring, you want something fresh, clean, kind of floral, shifting away from the very rich, deep, sultry gourmands that I really love. My spring fragrance collection is definitely lacking, and the ones that I've picked out today are definitely ones that I've talked about before that I think really work year round. Some of them are definitely more spring oriented, but without further ado, let's just get right into the list. So first off, we have Versace Bright Crystal. And if you've watched my review, you know that I actually don't really like this fragrance that much, but I do think that this is a really great fragrance for the spring because it honestly checks off like all the boxes for everything that you could want. It's really fresh, it's really clean, super watery, but it also dries down into this beautiful pink floral. And even though I don't like florals, the dry down of this is gorgeous and I love it. It's so clean, so fresh. This was definitely not one that I reached for during the winter time like at all, but I think with spring coming around, I'm definitely gonna see some use out of this. I do think it's a good fragrance. I just haven't really gotten the opportunity to use it. So that's Versace Bright Crystal. Next up on the list, we have Libre by Yves Saint Laurent. I don't know, I feel like this is just such an obvious pick, and I don't think that this is a fragrance that's exclusive to spring. I really think that this is a year-round fragrance because it's so versatile, such a classic, just crowd pleaser fragrance. This is also another very clean and fresh, kind of soapy smelling fragrance, but in a very expensive and luxurious way. You have so many florals. You have the orange blossom. It has a lot of white florals, and it also has that lavender, which makes it smell super fresh and also a little bit masculine, which makes it lean a little unisex. But I really feel like that anyone can totally rock this fragrance because it's such a confident, bold, uplifting fragrance, and it just has just the right amount of freshness. So that is YSL Libre. Next up, one of the newer ones to my collection, we have Angel, but this is the Eau de Toilette. I mean, I just don't really like the EDP of Angel in general, and I wouldn't really wear that in warmer-ish weather because it is really just sweet and cloying. But the EDT is such a step up in my opinion. I think it's so much less in your face. You have a lot less of that dirty patchouli while you still get some of that original Angel DNA. This one is definitely a lot more fresh, a lot more spring vibes, very fruity, and it's still really sweet and has a touch of gourmand to it, but it's not overwhelming and it's not going to give anyone a headache. So I definitely see myself picking this one up a lot during the season because this just reminds me of like, I don't know, like walking through a really expensive, fresh, like fruit market. Definitely a great pick for spring. This is Angel EDT by Thierry Mugler. Next up, we have Rem by Ariana Grande. I noticed that I call it Rem a lot, but a lot of people also just say R-E-M, but I say Rem because it's faster. Anyways, not important. I absolutely adore all of Ariana Grande's fragrances, but this is the only one that I put on this list because I feel like this one is probably the most appropriate for spring in my opinion. This is another very year-round fragrance, super versatile. You can rock this literally any time of the year, I feel like, because it's so inoffensive. I think for spring, it definitely also checks off a lot of those boxes. Oh, it just smells so clean. It's fresh, but not too fresh. Like, I really don't like when fragrances are overly fresh because then to me it smells kind of soapy. It smells like deodorant, body spray. So it has just the right amount of freshness while also having these gourmand hints to it, which I obviously love. It just smells so good. If you guys have not smelled R.E.M. by Ariana Grande yet, I would definitely check this out. I feel like I can't make like best fragrances list without having Dolce & Gabbana The Only One Intense. Like, you guys already know that this is probably gonna make every list I make moving forward.
I was supposed to be in the video.
No,
I literally just cannot shut up about this fragrance because I love it so much. I don't care what occasion it is. I'm going to wear this fragrance. I feel like it's so simple, but I really have just never smelled anything like it. The white florals just give it this heightened type of elegance while also blending in so immaculately with the caramel apple notes that I get with it. And there's also some coconut, which, you know, adds to the creaminess of it. And it really does feel gourmand to me, but it's also not sickly sweet. This is extremely classy. I think it's really sexy. I think it's also very clean, which makes it appropriate for warmer weather. I think spring is also a really great season for this because it has a lot of florals, so you're just gonna be smelling like a tart, sexy jasmine with like apples hanging around and caramel. Like, okay, sorry, that's like a really weird description, but like, you really can't go wrong with The Only One Intense. Another fragrance that I think is super great for spring is L'interdit by Givenchy, and this is the Eau de Toilette. I think that the Eau de Toilette is probably more appropriate for the spring and summer than the Eau de Parfum, even though they do smell extremely similar to me. This one is a little bit more green and earthy, but when I say green and earthy, that makes it sound kind of woody and grass smelling, which is not the case at all. This is such a floral fragrance. It has a very wide arrangement of white florals. The most prominent notes to me in this fragrance are jasmine and tuberose. I know tuberose is a very hard fragrance for some people to like because a lot of people think it smells like artificial grape candy, which honestly I have described this fragrance as smelling like a very sweet grape candy, but for me this fragrance just worked because it's so fun and uplifting. It's really bright, seriously such an amazing daytime fragrance, but it's also sexy. It's very classy, and this is also a really sweet fragrance. It's so sweet, but on my skin it doesn't turn sour or foul. This is L'interdit by Givenchy. This is the EDT. Definitely check this one out if you haven't already. It has patchouli and vetiver in the base notes. Honestly, I don't really get too much of that, but I personally don't like too much patchouli, so this one is just it's such an elegant white floral. And the last fragrance that I'm going to be talking about today is Dolce & Gabbana Pour Femme. So I did recently make a blind buy haul video where I did a first impressions of this fragrance, and upon first sniff, honestly I couldn't really smell it even because I had already like inhaled so many of like the other fragrances that I reviewed earlier. But after getting to play around with this fragrance, it is such a chef's kiss. It's so good. Such a great pick for the daytime. It's just like, I feel like this fragrance like reminds me of spring. It reminds me of a very clean, serene, spring, sunny morning. And in the beginning, it does kind of smell like baby wipes and baby powder, so it has that slightly soapy and fresh smell to it. But let this sit in a little bit, you let it dry down, and oh my god, the raspberry and the marshmallows and the vanilla starts to come out, and it is so beautiful. Literally every time I spray this on, I'm like, oh, like nice, like it's so fresh, so easy to wear, like whatever. But then later I smell it on my skin or my clothes once it has had time to dry down, and I'm like, oh my god, that smells so good. If you're looking for something light, inoffensive, and easy to wear, but also a little bit gourmand, definitely check out Pour Femme because it is a great pick. That just about wraps up my list for my favorite spring fragrances right now. These are definitely the ones that I'm going to be reaching for the most in the upcoming month. Let me know what you guys are going to be wearing during spring. I definitely need some recommendations because, again, as I was saying, my collection is so sad. Like, it's honestly depressing. Like, there's literally not much for me to go off of because everything I own is candy, syrupy sweet. But let me know what your top picks are. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you all soon.